The paper makes a sound before it makes sense, a dry rasp like linen pulled apart. It is October 12, 1944, and a German Gefreiter named Carl H. is standing inside a converted warehouse at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, holding a sheet of off-white stationery that smells faintly of disinfectant and coal dust. The corners are soft already. Someone has folded and unfolded it more than once. The first thing he noticed in America was not kindness, it was speed. He'd been wounded near Aachen in late September, shrapnel in the thigh, a clean entry, a burning exit. He expected to lie where he fell. That was doctrine. The Wehrmacht's manuals did not hide it. Evacuation depended on the tactical situation. Delay was normal. Morphine was scarce. Men bled quietly so others could advance. Instead, there were jeeps, then ambulances. Canvas flaps snapped open, a tag tied to his tunic with string. Time was written down, not poetry, minutes. He remembered the smell inside the American field hospital, phenol and wet wool, and the way an orderly kept checking his pulse, not to see if it was still there, but to see how fast it was changing. An Unteroffizier on the next cot kept whispering that it was a trick, that if they treated you, they could question you longer. No one questioned him. By October, Carl was on a train moving south, then farther south, past cotton fields already cut down to stalks. The American Provost Marshal Corps processed him at Camp Shelby with practiced hands. Name, rank, serial number. He said them once. They did not ask again. Medical inspections followed Geneva Convention requirements. That was said out loud, as if reciting a weather report. The Convention of 1929 allowed correspondence, 2 letters a month, cards if paper ran short. He had heard of this clause. He had been told it was theoretical, for show. The barrack was quiet when the writing materials arrived, not ceremoniously. A cardboard box carried by a corporal who looked bored, pencils with erasers already worn flat, paper heavier than newsprint, thinner than office stock. American, slightly yellowed. No one reached for it at first. A lieutenant at the far end of the room cleared his throat and said nothing. A Feldwebel stared at the floor. The room smelled of damp boots and boiled cabbage. Outside, someone was playing a radio too loudly, a voice stretching vowels in a way German did not. Carl took a sheet because the man next to him did not. The paper felt wrong, too clean. He held it close and smelled it. "Dear Anna," he began, then stopped. He crossed it out. The line was dark and decisive. He wrote again, smaller. He had been trained for this, or so he thought. Letters home were to be neutral. No locations, no conditions, no opinions. But the training assumed supervision. It assumed stamps that passed through hands that were not friendly. It assumed consequences. The Americans collected the letters openly. No sealing, no whispered warnings. A sergeant said, almost as an aside, that international inspectors would be through next month. Swiss Red Cross. Everything had to be in order. Carl wrote about the harvest instead, asked if the potatoes had done well. He paused before asking about bombing. He did not ask directly. He wrote, "Is the roof still good?" His handwriting thinned there. The ink blotted where his hand hesitated. He expected the letter to be read. He did not expect it to be allowed. The medical ward was 2 buildings over. Men went there and came back with stitches that held, with fevers that broke. An Unteroffizier who had lost 3 fingers was given a prosthetic grip so he could hold a spoon. The efficiency was procedural, not sentimental. Charts were filled, supplies arrived when they were supposed to. Evacuation meant movement, not waiting. This did not fit. Nazi instruction had been specific about the enemy. Decadent, disorganized, cruel in capricious ways. American treatment was supposed to be either brutal or theatrical. Instead, it was consistent. The same injections at the same times, the same rations, measured. Inspections conducted with clipboards, not fists. At night, men talked in low voices about what this meant. Some said it was temporary, that the real camps were elsewhere. Others said the Americans needed them alive for labor. A Gefreiter from Bremen said nothing at all, just folded and refolded his letter until the paper was nearly gray at the creases. When Karl's reply came, it was thin. It had traveled across water and through sensors and still arrived intact. The envelope was German, rougher than the American paper, a little brown. It smelled of smoke. He recognized his wife's hand immediately. The letters leaned right, as if bracing. She wrote that the roof was patched, that the children were taller, that the apples were small this year. She did not mention sirens. She did not mention party officials. She did not ask how he was treated. The absence was louder than any question. Karl read the letter twice, then once more, slowly. He pressed it flat against his knee to keep his hands from shaking. Around him, other men were doing the same. No one spoke. The radio outside had been turned off. The shock did not come as relief. It came as a pressure, low and steady. If this was allowed, if the enemy permitted unthreatened truth to pass through their system, then what had been forbidden, and why? A Feldwebel tore his own letter in half and then carefully taped it back together. He said he did not trust himself to write without orders. A lieutenant rewrote his 3 times, each version shorter. An Unteroffizier asked the guard directly if mentioning the camp would cause trouble. The guard shrugged, said the mail went through a censor's office in New York, said they mostly checked for maps. Maps. Medical evacuation schedules were posted on a board, times, destinations, names. The transparency was not dramatic, it was administrative. Men learned when they would be moved before they were moved. This, too, was unsettling. Karl began to understand that efficiency could be a form of power that did not announce itself. It did not require shouting. It required trust and process. He had been taught to fear chaos. He had not been taught what to do when order came from an enemy. He wrote again the following month, November 1944. The paper was the same. He asked fewer questions. He described the weather. He mentioned a nurse who spoke some German, poorly. He did not describe the surgery. He did not describe the speed. When the Red Cross inspectors came, they wore suits. They checked the infirmary. They asked about letters. Men answered carefully. The inspectors nodded and wrote things down.
Years later, Karl would remember the sound of paper more clearly than the sound of guns, the way it resisted and then gave, the way ink soaked in and could not be pulled back out. The war would end. He would return to a country that did not match his letters. The roof would be gone. The children would be quieter. He would keep the American paper in a drawer, folded flat, as if it were something that might still be inspected. The realization did not resolve into gratitude. It stayed where it had formed, a small, durable doubt. If an enemy could evacuate you quickly, heal you efficiently, and let you speak without punishment, then obedience was not the only structure possible. He never said this aloud. He only listened whenever paper moved.